Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm here on a Monday afternoon, Monday evening with Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hey Dale, what you been up to?
Well, as you can see behind me, I've got Airport World magazine. Oh, no, it's not. It's Gad World. Oh, geez, it keeps changing. I don't know why. And over my other shoulder, I have the new face, the new top, not the new face, of BadCounty.com. Oh, Airport World is back again. Let's talk really fast. I just came back from an airport advisory board meeting in Illinois Valley. Well, isn't that exciting?
Yes, I'm dying to hear about it, especially since I have virtually nothing to say and will only be able to react to whatever stimuli you
What,
provide.
what a liar this guy is. It's my friend. He always has something to say, and all you need to do is just start it rolling, and then you'll be lucky to get Word Bay personality because it would be the Mike and Mike show.
Right, yes.
Okay, all right. So the reason I went to the Airport Advisory Board meeting in IV
I was
was
hoping you were going to get around to that.
I heard that what was going to happen is that Cherryl Walker would be there, always hilarious, and Larry Graves would be there because he's the airport's manager, and they were going to talk at least a little bit about Manor Development. Okay, so Manor Development. Mike, now that I've given that slight introduction, why don't you just bring people up to speed that might say, Manor Development? What the heck is that? Please, please do.
Well, they're the operation that allegedly is going to bring a drone development operation to the IV airport. And of course, um, there was a bit of controversy in launching that, and nothing appears to be happening yet. And I'm sure that Dale is going to lay out the next chapter for us.
Okay, and then Mike can talk more about that. Good, good. And
Yes, perhaps. Yes.
you'll just have to put up with Airport World continuing to be obscured by the moon or GAD or whatever that is that keeps coming up.
Well, I got a fix for that, but I think it would bore the audience,
Yeah, I
maybe.
think it probably would, and so would this show. So, okay, good night, everybody.
Yes.
So, look, I got to stop doing that. There might be people that tune out. So, so I went, and I'm going to talk a little bit about our influence in the community. I don't talk a lot about that. So it's one of the things that has to do with Josephine County that you may not know about. When we first started this website, there were a number of people who thought it was a really bad idea, and a lot of people, more people, who thought it was a great idea. Let's keep track of the county commissioners. Let's have a, mostly, and let's have a place where we can go. And about half of the videos are going to be just the county commissioners talking, and the other half would be trying to explain what the heck it is you think that they're trying to say, or asking questions. There are a lot of people, it always bugs me to talk about this, but there are a lot of people in our county who feel that questioning government is just about the worst possible thing you can do. Why, what's wrong with you? Why were you raised this way? That you would
Yeah.
question your superiors.
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all,
It's
I don't
bizarre.
see them as superior to any of us. Okay, second, there are employees. And so I've got a few questions for them. Not always Gad, says Gad over my shoulder again. Not always, is that a political comment? Not always because they deserve to be raked over the coals, but they do deserve to be asked questions from time to time, especially when we catch them in outright lies. I don't like that kind of thing, okay? And I don't think most of our audience does. So while I'm somewhat fascinated, probably morbidly so, with people who say one should never question government, talk to Rika Brown. Uh, there are a lot more people who think, well, that's quite right to do that. And that's the way I was raised, that you should question authority. I was raised by my authoritarian parents, whose parents are not, to question authority. Whoa, cool. And I did. And they seem to delight in that. Now, they tell me the rules and then make it clear that I understood them, but they like the fact that I kind of wanted to know, well, you know, why are we not attaching cameras to the backs of chairs today?
Yes. Right.
So, but there are some people for whom that is just the worst possible thing you can do in this life. So I walk into this room, and you never know. I haven't been there in about a year or so to Airport Advisory Board meeting, and there were a number of people already there, and they greeted me like a long lost brother. Even people I didn't know. Oh, you're with that BadCounty.com, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. Oh, well, what are you going to? Oh, I love that. Boy, my wife loves it too. Come on over here. Oh, BadCounty.com. Great. I look at you all the time. Boy, I'm really behind you. They're not going to say anything at a meeting, but that's okay. And so
Yeah.
they're, boy, oh, look who's over here. And other people were coming over, and they didn't carry me around on their shoulders, but why not? But they were very pleased that we, you too, Mike, were there with a camera. And because what's happening at their airport, some of them were Cave Junction residents in general. Others use the airport on an everyday basis. There were movers and shakers. There were people who just were shakers. There were a number of people there who were very concerned about what's going on, and they wanted to ask questions. And a bunch of them, there was about a dozen people, I'm not making it up, who said, really badcounty.com and your nightly show, yeah, that nightly show, that's the only place I can go to get some of the questions asked that I want to know the answers to. Really? So you missed out by not going, bud.
Oh, well, I now I feel bad.
Well, no. I'm telling you all about it. I'm sharing it with you. And no exaggeration here. They were very pleased to see us. Now, there were a couple of people who arrived that weren't so pleased to see me. And one of them was Cherryl Walker. And the other one was Larry Graves. Oh,
Yes.
look, everybody's here. I mean, yeah, nice to see you too, Larry. So I don't bother saying that kind of stuff to him. Don't bother. And then so he and Cherryl promptly sat right down in front of me. I got to do that, and Larry's a huge guy, right? Big and round, and so I had to move the camera. Okay. And so I got a good position in order to tape what was going on. The main question that the place was packed. There was standing room only. And they were there to find out what's going on with Manor Community Development
Hmm.
and drones at the airport. There were people there who thinks that drones are not a really good idea in this society of ours. I kind of understand that. There
Hmm.
were people there that were convinced that the drones are here. Now, it says in their confidential brochure that the drones are here to do mineral surveys and plant surveys. Some people think that the drones are there to spy on legal marijuana. Could be. Some
Yeah.
people think that
Okay.
the drones are there to identify mineral resources and quick buy it up and sell it to somebody in Slobovia. I don't know about that, but
Yeah.
there were some global conspiracy theory people there, and there were some environmental people there, and there were don't spend my money unwisely people there. Well, I fit into that
Sounds
category.
logical. Right.
Yes. But they had to go through a bunch of falderall first. Let's the minutes from the last meeting, blah blah, and everybody's just sitting there patiently waiting. Then Larry Graves. Oh, Cherryl Walker did her report. By now, Cherryl is looking like she's going to her own funeral. She looks very, very unhappy.
Hmm.
Larry Graves got up briefly and started talking about how everything is going great with Manor Development at the airport. Why? It's a Shangri-La situation. I'm exaggerating only a little bit, okay? And he says, well, first let me explain everything that's happening, and then we'll open it up for questions. Usually they wait till the end. I think one of the reasons why Cherryl was unhappy is when she goes to a meeting, people get their time, they say their questions, nobody answers their questions, and then she, after you're sitting down and it's her protected time, and she goes on at length about how everybody's a liar except for Cherryl Walker.
Right.
And there was no opportunity to do that because we were questioning. I don't remember the last time that I got a chance to ask a question of Larry Graves any place at all. I mean, maybe out on the sidewalk, but no, you just don't get a chance to ask people questions these days. As commissioners, yes, but good luck in getting it answered. Nobody had any questions for Cherryl Walker, which looked to sort of perturb her also. All the questions were for Larry Graves. So a couple people started asking questions. Okay, they were going to take them one at a time. There were three people on the board who were not happy about, it looked like they were not happy about any questions asked of Larry at all, at any time. And the rest of the members of the seven-member board were kind of wanting to know the answers too, and almost all of the audience was brimming over with questions about what's going to happen next, because Manor Development has not lived up to their contract. They were supposed to start paying a medium amount of money to the commissioners, to the county in January. It's now almost April, and they paid nothing. Seems to me that's a breach of contract. Any comments, Mike?
It would be in any. Listen, commercial leasing. That's what I do. So, in my world, it sure as hell would be. You don't pay, you don't stay.
Right.
But so, I mean, is there any detectable presence of these people?
No.
On the premises there at all?
No.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I thought was interesting is a number of people said that the reason they know what's happening with Manor Development is because of BadCounty.com. And they kept quoting our videos and our statements. At one point, somebody said, well, where could we find the business plan for this Manor Development? And one of the ladies in the audience stood up and she said, you can find that at BadCounty.com. They got the confidential business plan. And someone else said, yeah, I read it on BadCounty.com. And a third person said, yeah, I got it from BadCounty.com.
Oh my God, this must have just had Cherryl, nearly coming unglued.
She was very upset. And then Larry Graves, the airport's manager, said, yeah, that Dale Matthews, he was at a weekly business session waving it around.
Well, people want to read it. People want to see it. That's what transparency is supposed to be about, And if they were about transparency too, maybe they would have posted it on their website, for crying out loud. Maybe, is that too much to ask?
And by the way, Larry Graves said, well, you can always find it at the Manor Development website. Four people said, not anymore.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I'm not really that surprised. I mean, this thing is sort of stunk, to me as a one of these real estate investment scams where somebody says, hey, how about if I give you 29 cents for a lease purchase option on that piece of property? And they get to hold on to it so no one else gets a shot at it for like 5 or 10 years. And then, in which time they try to do stuff like this not paying situation until they can find some investor that's going to come in there and pay them a profitable amount on the thing.
Well,
that's kind of what it is.
I'm not convinced that it's a scam, but in fact, I would love to see jobs spring up in the Illinois Valley, and not just the 90 jobs created for every plaque that's put on a rock,
right? Yeah.
But real jobs. And so I was ready for that. I'm like, well, okay, I'm kind of nerdy. I kind of like the idea of drones that are in the power of people and etc. I'm not sure that
So I'm guessing that what they said convinced you that this thing is still on.
Well, I haven't got to that part yet, but what Larry Graves did not say was, look, we're pulling the plug on this thing. Now, they had an executive session meeting the other day, the commissioners did, and I thought probably what they came up with was, look, it's almost April. They haven't paid anything. They were supposed to at the second day of the year. Nothing has come in, and so obviously, they're in breach of contract. And they're required by federal law to treat every renter, every
Uh,
leasing person at the airport in exactly the same way. So that
yeah, which means all you have to do is grab anybody who's leasing a hangar from them and read their lease, and they should be treating Manor Development in much the same way.
I believe that to be the case, yes. So I got a chance to ask my question, and I said, well, I have two questions. Okay. I said, well, my first question is, most of the people and this evening were making statements rather than asking questions.
Sure.
And some of them took longer than 3 minutes to make their statement. They wanted to say something, and the question you could always ask at the end is, now that you've had your long say, well, my question is, what do you think about that? You could
Yes.
do that, right? But I
Yes.
actually had questions. But I started off with a statement to lay the groundwork. And it was amazing to me that there were a lot of people there at this airport meeting who didn't know these things. And one of them said, I'm going to need to look at badcounty.com more often. Okay. You're welcome to come. And the first thing I said is, now we know that Larry Osborne, the primary figure with Manor Development, is tied for the second biggest contributor to Simon Hare for his re-election campaign. The reaction from the audience was electric.
Hmm.
About half of them knew this, and the other half didn't. And they went, oh, oh, ooh. They were pretty upset. Just so that you know, in our audience, I didn't go into longer detail, but Simon never declared this. Yet he took a vote on whether or not to sign a contract with Manor Development. He
Right.
should have said, and this board would have said, oh, no problem, Simon, never worry about anything having to do with ethics. We don't. And he could have said, well, there's a potential conflict of interest. That would have been the honest thing to do.
Sure.
But he didn't. Okay. So I started off that way. Right away, I got a couple of members of the board that don't want me to say anything more. One of them was this guy that said, Dale, let's be secret friends.
Mm.
When I started doing videos with this, one of my concerns was at that point, you couldn't put longer form videos on YouTube. So I went to a friend of mine that's involved in the Illinois Valley with a lot of high-tech stuff and with laying down fiber optic cable and this kind of stuff for companies out there. And I said, I've got this challenge. And he says, oh, I can help with that. I can set up something so that we can have something that's like YouTube, but it's locally made. I said, oh, really? And so I started working with him, and it was going to be called something like Dale.com, right, or Dale TV. And eventually he convinced me, well, maybe it's a better idea to call it something a little bit more generic. Okay, no problem. And so we did. And he started getting a lot of influence. A lot of people were saying, you got to cut the cable, you got to cut the power, you got to stop him. We can't allow him to put these videos up there. Why, he's putting up things that the commissioners have said, and that really causes us a problem. Really. So he resisted that for a long time. Then he said to me, they've asked me if I want to join the Rotary Club. And I said, sure, why not? As long as you don't drink the Kool-Aid, just, yeah, because maybe you'll influence some of those people, because we were working together like Mike and I do, okay? And he did.
I'm expecting my invitation anytime now.
And like right away, the guy drank the Kool-Aid. It's like the first thing that he did.
Hmm.
So he says, well, we got to maybe stop putting these things on here. And I go, what are you talking about, bud? So finally he said, I'm going to just have to shut it all down. You are? Why? Why are you going to do that? Well, there's an awful lot of people who are upset. I said, who would those people be? Well, it starts with the commissioners. So he comes up to my house right after making the decisions and comes up to me in the parking lot here and says, we can still be secret friends.
Yes. That sounds enticing. Yes.
I wasn't enticed. Now he's on the airport board, and he wanted me to be stopped because, I'm asking a question that's kind of rude, when you come down to it. Why, I'm questioning authority. And this is just apparently something he doesn't do much of anymore. I was on the Grants Pass Airport board at the beginning, and I got the fellow from So Ready, Michael Smith, and a current council member, can't remember his name. They were both on the board, and they came up to me after I'd been appointed. It was like my first or second meeting, and they said, you know, now that you're on a county board, I'm not making this up, you're really going to have to cut back on criticizing the county. I mean, really, that's just not the right thing to do. And I said, but I have questions for my county, whether I'm on a board or not. I'm a volunteer. No, no, if you want to keep this, you're just going to have to stop doing that. Roy Lindsay.
Roy Lindsay. So you can't be a public servant and question how the county does anything. Well, that only leaves one option left, and that is whatever the hierarchy says, that's what it is. That's all you get. That's the way it's going to be. And you know that's a dictatorship, for crying out loud.
There you go.
Sorry if that sounds conspiratorial or whatever.
Well, I agree with you. I agree. They weren't on the airport board much longer because they were voted off. And I stayed. But there was always a question in people's minds about, you know, just how much questions can you do and still get along with the people who want to get along with county government. Well, I want to get along with them. I just object to them lying and cheating. That's all. If they're going to break the law that we were talking about last night, blatantly break the law, even after they've been warned by county legal counsel that that's breaking the law, and they do it anyway, I don't like that. So sue me, kill me, okay? But I don't like it. And I think they should have listened to legal counsel and upheld their oath that they swore to do.
Right.
Not doing it. And to bring that up is rude, very, very rude to a number of people. Now, most of the people in the room were very supportive. And when Cameron Camp, that's the guy I'm talking about, let's be secret friends, when he tried to stop me from continuing with the question. There were 3 people who tried to stop me from continuing with the question after saying what I said. One was Cameron Camp. The other was, you can see it coming, Larry Graves. And can you guess who the third person was that didn't want me to be allowed to speak at all? What commissioner would that be?
Yes, the one that was there.
Good guess, Mike.
Yes.
She didn't want me to speak either. But one of the members of the board, the chair of the board, says, no, let him speak. And there were people in the audience that I want to know what the answer to what he's asking here. I also want to know. And during the rest of the meeting, those people, some of them asked the same question a slightly different way because we weren't getting any answers.
Right.
They were asking these questions of Larry Graves. But see, I was the only person who was stopped and trying to stop me from asking a question.
So I'm hanging on the edge of my head. What was the question?
Oh, the question was, does anyone know what time it is?
Yes. Does anybody really care about time?
Oh, good. That's Chicago. Very good, Mike. Okay, it's 24 or 6 to 3 or something like that. Anyway, what I said was, now that we know what the results are from this, you did say, Larry Graves, that you had completely checked out this company. How can we avoid those kinds of problems with checking out the company which didn't work out so well? How can we avoid those problems in the future? So Larry Graves' answer was, and this brought a big hoot and all kinds of laughter from the audience. What problems? And it just about brought down the house.
Well, you know, listen, if there's, and I suspected that there was some sort of a thing like this, and perhaps an examination of the lease document would provide some answers, but perhaps there is some sort of a thing where, you know, they don't have to perform at all for you know, a certain period of time or something like that, or I mean, did they provide any answers as to, oh yes, things are on schedule, don't worry, I mean, there's nothing happening here now, but it's gonna, and blah blah blah.
No, but Larry did say, as part of an answer to somebody else, that, well, let's just give them time. I mean, all they need is time. And that person said, but aren't they already in breach of contract? Well, technically, but we need to give them more time. They just need more time. And Cheryl's saying nothing.
Well, are they asking for more time? I mean, have
No.
you called them up and said, "Hey, where's the rent?" And they say, listen, I was a residential landlord for many years, and I can tell you that hundreds and hundreds of times I finally made phone calls or went to somebody's house and got the lame excuse. So I'm totally down with hearing that. However, but you know, has there been any communication? I would want to know what are these people saying now? I mean, how come they're not here?
That's what they kept asking at this meeting. We
Yeah.
got all these questions for these people, and they're not here. Which it's a perfect question that you asked, Mike, because I love saying good things about you. That's the main reason it's a perfect question.
Yes.
But the second reason it's a good question is, yeah, what kind of communication has been made with these? Now, listen carefully to this. Larry Graves has said, he first said, as I recall, that's to the best of my ability, that he was talking with them every day. Really? That's an interesting use of his time, but okay. And then he was talking to them a couple of times a week. And then he was talking to them once a week. He's paid. And he's spending time talking with people, and since you lease things, that any time that you spend on trying to track things down is time that you're not spending doing something else. Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Plus, in addition to that, my second and last question was, when this was approved by the commissioners, the next day, as I recall, it might have been 2 days later, but I think it was the next day. The next day, you, Larry Graves, were in the office of the commissioners, and they had just told us this was going to cost us absolutely nothing, and you remember that.
Right.
And I said, but the next thing that you did is you said you needed a raise for your employees since they were going to spend so much time working on this project. And he starts to interrupt me. I said, well, just let me finish. And the chair is saying, let him finish. And people in the audience, it was great, say, let him finish. And so my question is, one, what did they do with all that time, since there's been nothing for your staff to do at all? I mean, these are the guys that sweep the debris off the road. What are they going to sweep debris off of somebody that's not there? And so what have they been doing? And and you've spent a lot of time on this, and he denies this, of course, but he says that he does, and then he says that he doesn't. And then I said, but the other thing is, being a fiscal conservative, which he purports to be, I didn't say it that way, but I said, being a fiscal conservative, when are you going to advocate for them for reversing the raise that they got? Because there's nothing for them to do.
Right.
There was this long silence in the room, and Larry Grace says, can I say something now? I didn't tell him to stop. Yeah. Well, you got it all wrong. Okay. What do I have all wrong? It's just all wrong.
So you're going to set me straight right now.
That was. So to set me straight, he said, they didn't get any raises. Okay. No, they got the same pay, but I asked for more hours. And the audience once again went, what? What the heck are you?
To do what?
There's no difference. Right, but see, he never answered the question. He just set me straight that they didn't get a raise, you see. Well, actually, they sort of got a raise on a yearly basis, but they didn't get an hourly raise. He just wanted more hours for them. And so the audience is going, there's no difference between those two things. What are you talking about? Well, that's his answer. It was almost like he was ready for that question.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I think this is what happens to, quote, fiscal conservatives who are of questionable moral strength when they become public servants, is that they cave and they're all of a sudden they're in it for the money, they're in it for the benefits, they're in it for whatever they can get, whatever power they can wield. And you know what? I don't have any respect for it at all. They all become the bureaucrat that thinks with one mind.
Well, the question to which I never got an answer is, Why are you continuing to pay these guys? Or actually, why are they having more hours? Well, that's completely different. Why do they have more hours when they're not doing anything to earn that? There's nothing for them to
Yeah,
do.
right.
There probably wasn't to begin with.
Right. Yeah.
And he and
Well,
Cherryl both.
I would want an ex.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
He and Cherryl both have been
We got a
telling
little bit of a
everybody that this
bandwidth
has
issue.
cost the county $0, zero, nothing. Stop asking. It's costing us zero. Well, wait a minute. If he's calling them every day or even once a week, it's costing us a little bit. And then somebody brought up, well, didn't you and Cherryl fly up to Washington State to talk with the FAA? Well, that must have cost us something. No more answers from
Yeah.
Larry Graves.
Yeah.
But
Shocking.
it was so interesting. This little part was interesting. They had what Cherryl had said at last Wednesday's weekly business session was, well, once we signed the contract, then we found that there were some questions where we'd have to answer this with the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. Well, unfortunately, I guess Larry didn't know that Cherryl had said that, because what he said is, oh, we knew this all along. You knew it all along? So you didn't find it out after you signed the contract. You knew it before you signed the contract. And he kept doing this. People would ask these questions. I don't know what he just wasn't monitoring what he was saying in his mind or something, because someone would say, well, there's a lot of business problems with Manor Development. Oh, yeah, we knew that. Oh, yeah, you knew that? And you signed a contract anyway? Well, oh, well, what's this thing about the FAA and it's against federal law to do such a thing on this airport? Oh, we knew all about that. You knew all about that and you signed the contract anyway? So some people start going through a timeline of when things happened and how is it that you knew all about this at this time and you signed the contract anyway at this time? Now, wait a minute. The more he talked, the deeper he was getting into it.
Well, it just seems like if there was an answer, if there was a get out of jail free card, in this whole thing, they would have whipped it out and played it here. But obviously, they're in deep duty, unless I'm misinterpreting what you're saying here.
No, you're not misinterpreting it. So what's the basic problem? The basic problem is when you try to find out anything about this company, you run into a brick wall. And when you ask them a direct question, they hang up on you. They hang up on you? What the heck kind of company is that hangs up on you when you're asking a question? There were people there who had done some research, and one of our favorite loons was there, and she says, well, and this person, see, the problem is sometimes with people that are on your side is there's something wrong with them. I mean, I'm just being bluntly honest about that. That's about as blunt as you can get. And when she'd hold up her hand, they say, okay, you have a question? Yeah, I do, and blah, blah, blah. And it was kind of like, okay, question. And then Larry would try to answer it. And as soon as she was done, she'd hold up her hand again. It's like, aren't you getting tired of holding your hand? I mean, you've had your question, then maybe she has a second one. So a couple more people, and then they'd call her on her again. Well, what about this? And it was a little further off of sanity, right? To be honest, bluntly honest. And then as soon as she was done and they started going to the next person, she held up her hand again. It's like, whoa, that's really weird. I mean, how long could she hold up her hand during a meeting? The entire damn meeting, she's holding up her hand. Darn meeting, okay? It's crazy. And so they let her ask like 5 different questions, and the more questions she asked, the more out of this world it's getting, to the point at which she's saying, Manor Development, and Larry, you mean Manor? No, Manor Development. Manor Development. Yeah, well, they have a name that's somewhat similar, and they're involved with people in communist China, and they're doing that, and you're going like, whoa, where's this going? Well, do you realize that this and that, and that these people are trying to do, and you're going, whoa, and are you related? You work for WH Pacific, Larry Graves. No, I don't. And I'm going, no, he doesn't.
So wasn't Moses on the board of Manor Development?
Oh, that's a good one, Mike. That's a good one.
Yes.
Anyway, this lady particularly has something about, and I'm not making this up.
I know.
About companies with the word Pacific in their name. Pacific?
Yes.
What, Pacific Life? Oh, yeah. Oh, and any company that has the word Pacific in their name, she's like death on that company. Really?
Yes.
The Pacific Ocean is an evil. Who
You
knows?
better be careful that she may be superimposing PacificBadCounty.com on your.
Oh, and the more questions they let her ask, but this suits somebody when we know that there are the TV stations in Medford, for example, will come over
Mhm.
here, and when they're trying to find someone to talk about why they don't like the levy, they have a tendency sometimes to pick people who are, what the heck is that guy saying? And
Yeah.
they love to pick those kind of people because we already know. I mean, this is no secret. The TV station the media people, including Bill Meyer sometimes with KMED, they think that we're crazy for not voting to raise our taxes. So they routinely come over here and they pick some people who they don't make any sense at all. And they love to pick
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah.
I mean, they would never pick Mike. Mike's going to say, well, it's pretty obvious that this and this and this is, well, that doesn't make good TV. But some go, and running around and yelling, woot, woot. That's the kind of person they want to represent that point of view. You can tell because they
Right.
keep picking the wrong people. Pick somebody that knows what they're talking about.
So, was there I mean, if you had a sentence or two to describe,
Too late.
where things were left off here.
It was an airport meeting and things were left up in the air.
Yes, naturally. Naturally.